Hello everyone? Dear God, you can tell that two videos were recorded several years apart. Well, anyway, let's take it from the top. I hope that you are all doing alright, that you're having great winter holidays, and that you've enjoyed watching that 1 hour mess that was the Memories of Phantasm video. As you can tell from the time it took to make it, or probably from the scarcity of uploads on this channel recently, I've not exactly been having the best time in the last couple of years. This is something I want to discuss a bit, so if you're not exactly interested in things like real life issues or even creative blocks, feel free to skip to the next portion of the video. If everything goes according to plan, you should normally have segments to jump from part to part. But alright, enough fretting about the small introductory stuff. Let's start by answering the first question that you were probably asking yourself during this entire time. Where did I go, and what exactly happened? Long story short, nowhere and everywhere at once. Okay, that's not exactly helping. Let's elaborate a bit. First of all, I didn't really go anywhere. The idea is that I was focused on the Memories of Phantasm videos so much that I basically had no time, energy or motivation to work on something else. It may sound odd, but that's the truth of the matter, and I can go even deeper in the matter to explain this with 4 points. 1. I started working in real life about 3 years ago. Now that might seem like an obvious thing, but work does take time out of your schedule. It just prevents you from completely focusing on your side projects and, well, not only that, but even if you do videos for fun, you often don't want to work on one whenever you literally come back from work. It might seem like I'm exaggerating a bit, but whenever you come back after an exhausting day, it's just pretty hard to get in the mood. This doesn't mean there weren't days where I felt motivated, but simply that those became rarer than before. Granted, it's something I'm trying to work on, so it doesn't happen as much, but it's pretty tough to break habits, especially when those are bad and long-lived ones. 2. I may have been a little bit too ambitious and stubborn regarding the video. And by that, I mean I really should have gone with a simpler editing style, since that's what wasted so much time in the long run. Now, of course, I could have simply done the video from scratch with simpler editing, but because of stubbornness, I ended up going with it, telling myself that it would take even longer to go with the second option, and let's say that choosing a more intense editing style doesn't exactly help to get motivated after work, especially when you know what's awaiting you. But I simply didn't want to give up on finding new ways to display stuff on the screen, since it's one aspect of editing I absolutely love. Of course, it's also something that takes a gargantuan amount of time, and I should have thought about it before getting into the project, but sometimes ambition is just stronger than reason. 3. I've been feeling pretty disconnected from a lot of things as a whole recently, not just Toho. Now, don't panic, that doesn't mean I'm disliking Toho, nor that I will stop making videos. Quite the contrary, in fact. There are still many doujins, music, and other creations that I enjoy, but recently it's been pretty tough keeping up with the series' recent outings, especially when it comes to official releases. I don't want to talk about it in detail, since I want to try and make a video and explain my point of view in a way that doesn't feel like I just made it up on the spot, but I just feel it's getting harder and harder for me to express my opinion on anything Toho related. Especially Zun's games and manga, since those aren't exactly easy to criticize when getting into the nitty-gritty. And I mean, there's also the fear of getting one's opinion misunderstood, but that's how the internet works as a whole, so worrying about that is pretty much pointless. And finally, 4. A general lack of confidence when it comes to video making. This one is probably the worst of them all, and it comes from several different aspects. feeling like the writing isn't up to par because of abhorrent choices of vocabulary, that the audio sounds off since I don't have good audio equipment and have to use a literal blanket to avoid reverb, guilt from not being able to make videos regularly because of slow editing, followed by even more guilt because of procrastination. It all leads to doubt, which leads to me undervaluing my work and getting the idea that nothing I make has a point in the end. I know this isn't true, but it's just not a feeling one can repress that easily, and I think those thoughts are mainly coming from a desire to improve, to bring stuff that I'm actually proud of on my channel so you guys can enjoy it as well. But for this video, however, it just led to too many breakdowns, way too often, for way too long. For which I'm absolutely sorry, and I hope it won't happen again. It's just difficult to explain what goes on inside of one's head without sounding weird, right? So, yeah. Here are the reasons why I wasn't there for such a long time. Real life coupled with keeping my sanity in check, and an overall overambitiousness coupled with a lack of interest at some points. But hey, enough of that soppy, wishy-washy stuff. It's not what you came here for, right? You're here to see how it went behind the scenes, the stupid stuff. So let's check this out right now. Let's start with some parts of the video that I'm actually proud of. During the section talking about the arcs and lines of action, I brought the character selection screen from AOCF into my editing. Or rather, I almost did. As you can see, it's made to look like a single player version. That wasn't actually all that hard to do, but instead of isolating every single asset from the game like a normal person would, just guess what I did? Of course, the most logical outcome was taking the sprite sheets directly from the game files, using them as such and then moving them in a way that mimicked the game. For which I actually took a recording of the game. I'm not that crazy. I find the result to be pretty convincing outside of the big lump of text at the top that wasn't even modified, but I guess everyone makes mistakes once in a while. And speaking of mistakes, this transition looks cool, right? However, here's how it looks in Vegas. Because I had no experience with other editing software, I thought it was a good idea to mask Marissa out manually for the entire duration of the scene. Frame by frame. Anchor point by anchor point. What the fuck was I thinking? Not only was it time consuming to do that, but that's not even all. Because Marissa appears from the top, I also had to mask out the space background behind her to progressively add it and make the transition smooth. To be fair, it wasn't as bad, just a matter of inverting the already existing masks, but still, there's a reason why 2 sub-projects are dedicated to this transition. After that, all that was left was adding a little bit of blur so it appears to come from the background and adjust it accordingly to make Marissa appear seamlessly. And even with me struggling on it, I still think this is one of the coolest transitions in the video. Though, speaking of sub-projects, allow me to showcase the folder dedicated to them. 273 sub-projects. That's what was needed for this video. With classics such as 1636, I hate using that word, or the best one of them all, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah. Now, you may be wondering why there are so many, and the answer is quite simple actually. Almost every single transition where things are removed from the screen is contained within a sub-project. Not only was it more efficient, since I would have had to remove elements one by one otherwise, but it also allowed for some nice visual effects. That being said, it also caused a number of issues as well. Picture the following situation. You want to use Doremi's sprites from Antinomy of Common Flowers, and you want her to bounce while she goes through a square in order to transition from one place to the next. Sounds pretty simple on paper, right? I mean, you just get a gif of Doremi doing that animation of the internet and... oh. The gif simply doesn't exist. Not even on the wiki. Oh well, it's no biggie. I'm just gonna take the sprites from the game and match them with a recording of in-game footage and put that into a sub-project. That should do the trick. Right, there we go, and... Oh. Oh no, the footage scales up and down depending on your position on the screen, and Doremi's sprites actually rotate themselves? Well, I mean, it won't be a one-to-one recreation, but that's fine. People won't notice such small details. Oh, but wait, if I put her in a single project along with the background, she won't be able to jump in front of it and will instead pass behind it. Oh, that's never gonna end, is it? To explain how I've created the transition in the end, I had to create a nested sub-project that I added to the main project. That itself contained another nested sub-project, which contained the background and a little bit of Doremi's animation, in order to make the whole scene zoom in at the same time, so Doremi could be in front of the colored dream world, but behind the bottom of the screen once she jumped. It was a pain, but far from the biggest problem, since the jumping animation in itself was not centered. So whenever I needed to demonstrate the actual point of the jumping animation, I had to center it sneakily every time so it didn't look unnatural. Though it definitely does in the end. It's pretty minimal and ended up looking alright since it was already slowed down to be somewhat visible, but still. However, what was pretty bad at first was the script, since it got rewritten more than 4 times before setting on the final version. In the first version, I even had the idea of making an MMD video for the introduction, since the whole ordeal was to explain things related to animation. Why did it get dropped? A pure lack of experience. I literally had no previous experience with MMD, and I still don't, to be honest, and therefore I also had no idea how to set it up, and it ended up not seeing the light of day. It still made its way in somewhat, even if it wasn't exactly it, with a small ending MMD video right before the end credits, for which I will never thank Vegemite flavored Endomy enough for. However, it was not originally supposed to be that way. The plan at the end of the video was creating a 3-minute animated segment with Iku turning the camera away from a screen which was broadcasting the video, to then talk in front of the camera, explaining a few things, and then leaving the stage. There are a few remnants of this animation, showing the first few stages, which were going to be drawn and animated by Tazwomant, who also created the animated Marisa storyboard you can see at 28 minutes in the video, for which he also drew 2 storyboards which have their own little story to tell. As you can see, the storyboard was initially much longer and included the battle sequence with Yomu, but that scene is nowhere to be seen in the end product. So why was it shelved? The reasons for the cancellation of everything past the second sheet of the storyboard are twofold. The first one is because the fight against Yomu in the anime, as short as it is, isn't bad when it comes to staging. And if you remember, this was the subject at hand, so there was no reason for me to go further than the stairs climb. As for the second reason, it was to prevent an awful amount of work for Tazwomant, who was already kind enough to work with me on this organizational nightmare. There was also a section where Sanae and Reimu would speak with funny voices and comment on how the Sanae plotline doesn't exactly work within the anime. The problem with this one is that it would have completely ruined the mood set up by the previous scenes by forcing humor into the mix. And it would have been worse, since I basically explained this recurrent problem in Memories of Phantasm not so long after, so it would have been a pretty big contradiction overall. Did you also know that picking the background music for this video was an absolute nightmare? Well, to explain what I mean, let's go over how I usually proceed when choosing the background music for videos. Usually, I tend to use the music of the subject I'm talking about. For Gensler Skydrift, I used the game's music, for example. Now, Memories of Phantasm does have an original soundtrack, full of tour arrangements to boot. So, it mustn't have been too hard to choose, right? If only. See, the issue with that soundtrack is that it's tailor-made for the anime, which isn't uncommon. However, seeing how short some episodes are, I think you won't be surprised when I tell you that more than half of the songs on the album are less than 50 seconds long, making all of the CDs essentially worthless. Well, not quite. There were still 3 instances where I could use some tracks. When I'm talking about smears with Aya, because I wanted to use the sound effect of the phone being hung up, and after I get angry about good animation, because it was pretty fitting for an angry high and a depressing low. The worst part is that most of the music of the anime isn't bad. As I've said, there are a few odd ones out there, but otherwise, it knows when to rock out and it knows when to be quiet. I just wish I could have used it some more. But alas, I had to make do with other tracks, which are still great in their own right. It ended up being a mix of doujin music, official tracks from the games, and a little bit of the OST. A few of them were repeated a bit too much, although that has more to do with the length of the video itself rather than the length of the tracks. Moving on, what involves recording also involves outtakes. There aren't many of them, and considering that I'm not a native speaker, most of them were small, uninteresting mishaps. But there were still a few that I would consider amusing, even after so much time after the original recording. Just, keep in mind I might sound like a dumbass on some, and it's perfectly normal. See, the primary action here is Doremi bouncing. Bouncing? Holy shit, what kind of accent or whatever was I going for here? Not to mention, but episodes are still sold at a hefty price. Well, saying that the rule isn't respected would be a flat-out lie, but most of the movements fall into the same category? Huh? To get a good example out of Memories of Phantasm, let's just go straight. That being said, one of the reasons why characters are rarely fully shown might not just be because of arcs and lines of action being few and far between, but also because of another rule: primary and secondary action. Primary and fuck off! Same goes in episode 13. 13, oh geez, I got a rhythm here. 13. In episode 1, you can easily see this with Yuyuko's dress flowing in the same manner when it should be pushed towards the tree because of the wind. Wind! Laser! Fucking announcer! Ooh, look at this! Brrr. The most important step when it comes to characters themselves is, well, it's all in the name really. The character design, which gathers every single detail of every single character in the game. Putain, c'est pas un jeu, mais qu'est-ce que je raconte? I'll spare you the entire process, since that'd be pretty boring, all things considered. But a lot of openings here are reused, and a lot of openings are reused, and a lot of openings are reused, and a lot of openings I've reused. Oh, no, I just became a robot. Take the example of Marisa using a satellite illusion spell card on my keyboard. In fact, this also brings up something else. The door. It brought the door here. And speaking about animation rules, how about Aya coming in most of the scenes, some entrances like Yuyuko and Yomu's hands in episode 1. In episode, pas episode. Ooh, look at me, I'm French. Oh, I'm saying episode. And in regards to that, Memories of Phantasm fails in two critical categories. There are many other things I could show you here that wouldn't be so interesting. Things such as the 8 pages of notes I took before starting to write this episode, listing all of the material that I used, such as the episode's links, and random ramblings such as this. Intros and outros are way too long due to the music being taken from US satellite and can take up to 1/3 of an episode. On top, they're often repeated due to an incident taking a lot of time. Make a long segment explaining why it's almost a scam and why it makes the anime much, much worse because you're watching a pack of Lay's crisps. 90% air. Dear God, how angry was I? But all things considered, it's a thing that's better read with one's own eyes. So instead, let's do a little segue outside of the video folder to talk more about the material side of the project. Luckily for me, I didn't have to buy all of the episodes, as I was gracefully gifted 14 files containing the first 14 episodes by a friend. Zergrad from the French dubbing channel Tohopai. However, this also meant I had to get the 15th, 16th and 17th episode on my own. Which I reluctantly did at first until I discovered something pretty funny that you probably don't know about Memories of Phantasm. Inside of the DVD cases for every episode, there is actually a little flyer presenting most of the characters present in each episode. It's pretty cool, but here comes the amusing part. At the end of this flyer, the anime shows that it doesn't care about the order at all, because it has a section telling you how to watch the anime, by going from 2, 3, 4 to 1, then 8 to 13, then 5 and 6, followed by 14 and 17, and finishing up with episode 7. This is something I thought to include because it's clearly showing they're going out of order purposefully, which makes this whole ordeal worse. But I decided to go against the idea. Not because I thought it was bad, but because I don't have the best camera, and it would have looked weird to use a faulty old phone. And finally, because the video was made over such a long time, it was impossible for me to keep a straight face and to be serious throughout the entirety of the editing process, resulting in a few shitposts here and there. Obviously, those aren't always funny, but some of them still give me a smile. Some of them don't even have sound, and a couple of them are even in French. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything. Hence, to finish this section off, I hope you'll enjoy those shitposts as much as I enjoyed making them. Huh?
Mon plan est franchement simple. Ça, c'est moi, et ça, c'est le sanctuaire. Et là,
Bonjour.
Nuit.
Hein?
De
Quoi?
faire.
Comment?
Dans.
Ah, elle est douée celle-là. On se bat?
Oui.
Titi. Je t'ai eu, sale pute!
Mais t'es pas nette, non?
Mais si, je suis très net.
Nature, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't really want to go into the void.
well, too bad.
No, wait! Ah!
Initiating watermelon eating process.
Hé Rémo, regarde, j'ai glissé.
Mais pourquoi t'as fait ça?
Ça coûte moins cher à animer, et c'est encore plus efficace en hors-champ. Regarde.
Ah ouais, ça marche super bien. Mais comment on arrête ça du coup? Marissa? So you've been doing all of this masking with anchor points just to make a shit post?
Yeah?
Bon allez, Sanae. Maintenant, tu disparais. Wow.
Oh mon Dieu!
Oui, en effet, c'est bien moi.
bah oui, c'est vrai.
Y'all gon' make me act a fool up in here, Y'all gon' make me lose my cool up in here, Y'all gon' make me bust a snack up in here, Y'all gonna make my fingers snap up in here,
We welcome you to Subaku Airlines. Prepare for takeoff. That's some good shit. Bon sang, toute cette neige autour de ta maison, c'est forcément dû au réchauffement climatique, ça c'est sûr, et pas au yokai.
Bah, non, réfléchis, Marissa. Ça ne peut pas se réchauffer s'il neige.
Mais j'avoue que sur le coup, elle a pas vraiment tort.
Toi, tu la fermes. Tu te crois peut-être maligne, Raymond, mais en attendant, on est en juillet, donc c'est forcément pas naturel.
Ah ouais, un peu comme ta voix, quoi. C'est juste avec qui les double tous.
Franchement, je te trouve super dédaigneuse. Ah non mais franchement.
Ouais, je suis dédaigneuse.
Ça veut dire quoi, dédaigneuse?
That's why I don't want to rush it, because otherwise it won't be great to watch, but rest assured, I still want to release it within 2021. That didn't age well at all. I think you'll understand this time if I'm not giving any dates at which the projects will be released, considering how things went. However, that doesn't mean I don't have anything to talk about. Last time I did one of these, I had expressed an idea about doing other episodes centered around the formats of Ignorant Story and Prism Records. Thinking about it though, it's better to drop the format titles altogether and focus on doing the videos I wish, rather than trying to make them fit a mold. Not to mention that Ignorant Story didn't really mean anything from the start. It was just a way for me to categorize things that caught my attention in a small format, and even that eventually disappeared. Regarding the videos themselves, however, I've got one written, recorded and prepared talking about Sanyo Komaksa. It'll be slightly different than usual, but hopefully still nice. Another well-edited one is coming, although not now, considering it's more than 40 minutes long. I'd prefer to keep the subject a secret for now, but it's going to be a video centered around a game that has a charming art style and bouncy mechanics. There's a lot to say about it, but let's hope it doesn't follow the same fate as the previous big project. And finally, I'd also like to follow this video with one dedicated to the Toho Fan Game Jam, since I've been playing and voting for every single game since the 6th edition. There's a lot of funny little games that have undeniable qualities there, and I think it'd be fun to talk about them. A couple of hurdles may come up in the way of those videos, however, because in real life, I'm probably going to move and get myself a new home for the first time. It's quite an exciting prospect, considering it's pretty much the first step to full independence. Things should go alright though, as long as I don't jump from workplace to workplace, just like I did for the past years. Stability is the thing I'm looking for the time being, and finding this would make my life much better in general. But that's about it. I'll try to do my best and increase the quantity without hindering the quality of the videos. I can't promise it will be the case, but at least I'm not stuck on the same video anymore. But enough of that, let's move on to what you guys have sent in. It wouldn't be an update video if there weren't any questions to answer, right? Q&A time, starts now. How are you so cool? I mean, I've got some equally cool fans. What makes you continue to create Toho content even after years? Just the drive to make things I enjoy, really. I can't sit and do nothing all day, so the natural response to that is simply trying to make the things I can. And I just so happen to be half decent at making videos. Toho also happens to be open to creativity, and the setting and universe of Gensokyo leaves a lot to discuss, discover, and imagine. So it's only natural to keep enjoying what there's to enjoy, and to create something that people can enjoy in return, right? Even if it's not always easy, I mean, that's art in general. I admit it may be a silly or simple answer, but sometimes you don't have to look very far. Why is your voice so damn handsome? Like, god damn! What do you mean, handsome? What would you consider to be the real meat of the Toho series? Phew, personally, I'd even have trouble saying what's the best aspect of Toho in general. There are many parts of the series I enjoy. The universe, the characters, the music, the manga, the games. There really is a lot to sink your teeth into now that I'm thinking about it. But if you were to put a gun to my head, I'd probably go with Dojinshi, since there are plenty of interesting stories told by the fans. Any ideas for new types of videos? Like, outside of reviews and short exits? Honestly, yeah, I have ideas for different types of videos that I'd enjoy doing, but the main roadblock between ideas and a finished product are often the skills necessary to realize them. I'd love to use MMD or Blender in a way that would allow me to include skits, or I'd even want to make custom fitting music, but that would ask me for musical knowledge, and I quite literally have none. It's not a lack of willingness to do it, but simply me not knowing where or when to start. I already have enough trouble trying to do what I want to do, so branching out would simply exacerbate the issues. Basically, for now I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. Afterwards, I'd love to try new things. Any other favorite character instead of Shinmyomaru? Considering that Shinmyomaru isn't my favorite character, yeah, there are many of them. Outside of Iku, plenty of them are stage 2 characters, like Ringo, Nemuno, Urumi. You get the idea. I just find them cool. Is baguette good? I mean, yeah, I'll say it's pretty good. You know, it's spread. What story threads would you like to be introduced or expanded on in the next Toho games? At the moment, none of them. I'd rather like for Zune to come up with a brand new story, considering we've been through the Beast and card incidents for a bit now, with Toho 17, 17.5, 18, 18.5, and 19. So I think it's better if Toho 20 happens to be a fresh entry to change things up a bit, just like 14 was at the time. Though, again, if something really needs to be expanded or introduced, I'd, unironically, like to see Zune give more exposure to the 3 faction characters that he introduced in Toho 19, Enoko, Bitin, and Chiari. All of them seem interesting, so it'd be nice to see them in action outside of their own game. How was your year so far? Is there anything you wish to improve in 2024? How are you doing? Serious question. How's your Christmas? I think I've already elaborated about how I feel about this year and the previous ones that came before, so I'm not going to repeat it to not be redundant, but I would just like to improve my regularity in 2024. That's the only objective here. If I could pump out more than one video a year, that would be great. Otherwise, considering that this video comes out on Christmas, I can tell you that it's surprisingly uneventful. But at least there's good food and I'm with people I care for, so there isn't much to complain about. And I believe we have reached the end. There are no more questions on the list. And I don't have much more to say otherwise, really, so, actually, I don't really know how to handle this. I just made this video pretty hastily. If anything, I'm glad. Glad to be able to move on to other videos and to work on less straining projects. And you know what? I think that's the important thing in the end. So, once again, thank you for your patience, everyone. I wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and all that's left for me is to make slightly better resolutions for 2024 than I did in 2021. Thank you for sticking until the end of the video, and I'll see you soon for another one. Alright, take care.